Welcome back. This Friday, the new film A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood comes to theaters, starring Tom Hanks as the iconic children's television host, Fred Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
The film is being embraced as a respite from the storm of cruelty that marks this era, a time of mean tweets and personal invective, of division and bullying. Mr. Rogers died 16 years ago, so it's tough to know what he would make of today, though his widow, Joanne, recently offered this.
People say to you, what do you think he would say? What do you think he would do about all this? And I think it would be about the children. It would be about the immigrants who are having children taken of the children themselves. It just breaks my heart. And I know it breaks everybody's heart.
The sad truth, of course, is that it does not break everybody's heart. But Joanne Rogers shares her late husband's radical view of humanity, of a God who loves all of us. She did that interview last year promoting the documentary about her late husband, Won't You Be My Neighbor? You might remember when hecklers accosted then Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, a strong supporter of President Trump, on her way into and out of the theater to see that documentary. Would Mr. Rogers take children away from their parents? One heckler yelled at her.
What do you think about you and your legacy in Florida? Taking away health insurance with people with pre-existing conditions, Pam Bondi. Shame on you!
What would Mr. Rogers make of those policies? For that matter, what would he make of the heckling of Pam Bondi? The new film was inspired by journalist Tom Junot's 1998 profile of Mr. Rogers and their subsequent friendship.
You don't consider yourself famous?
Fame is a four-letter word, like tape or Zoom or face. What ultimately matters is what we do with it.
Junot writes in The Atlantic about the hecklers accosting Pam Bondi that while, quote, it's obvious Rogers would have been saddened by our country's continued refusal to provide health care to all its citizens and, quote, devastated by the cruelties committed in our name at the border, Mr. Rogers' vision of the world depended on civility, on strangers feeling welcome in the public square. Civility, he writes, couldn't be subject to politics, but rather had to be the very basis of politics. This week I asked Junot, what would he say to those like the hecklers who argue that one cannot respond to cruelty with kindness? Well, that, Junot replied, that misses the radical part of Mr. Rogers' radical kindness. People remember him as kind, but they miss the part of Mr. Rogers being demanding. He demanded a lot of us, and treating everyone, even the bullies, even those who advocate for policies we find abhorrent, treating all of us as children of God who are special and deserve love, well, that was what Mr. Rogers demanded. Now, we're in a dark period in politics right now in this country, and as impeachment heats up, it's assuredly only going to grow darker. We could all do worse than to follow the lead of Mr. Rogers and attempt to remember the humanity of everyone involved, including, now, especially those whose behavior you find repugnant. Radical indeed. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning with us.